Hi there everybody, Hugh here, the Builder's Office. Builder's Office is a place that you go to for podcasts, well first and foremost podcasts, but podcasts for everybody that's looking to build or are building and they're looking to get the best experience that they possibly can from it and obviously the best outcome. So join me as I dive into another fun little topic. So I'm Hugh, Builder's Office, episode number 28. All right, and if you've read the title of this, it is my builder transparent? So a couple of things that have been happening over the last little while. I've been asking questions of a lot of people, and I think it's been really interesting when I start sort of diving into it, and there is the fun part of people trying to work out whether, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether people are transparent or not. And it's something that has really come out quite a lot lately. So I thought better dive into this with a little bit more depth, and got my notepad out here, so we're going to dive into this again. So, okay, before I go too far into transparency and what experiences people are having with transparency with builders, we've got to understand first and foremost, what is transparency? So I thought, bugger it, I will get something out and let's get a definition of it. So what's the definition of transparent? So pulled this off of dictionary.com. So having the property of transmitting rays of light through its substance that bodies situated beyond or behind can be distinctly seen. So that's one definition of it. Another one is easily seen through, recognized or detected. Last one that I thought was probably more relevant to what we're talking about: open, frank, candid. So I thought that was pretty poignant, that last one, especially when it comes to building projects. So we know that building projects are very complex. We know that it takes a lot of work, a lot of experience to be able to get these things to operate efficiently and to be good. So open, frank, candid. We won't say that it's Frank the person, but we'll just say someone can be pretty straight up about things. But a lot of times, transparency, when it comes into it, people aren't transparent. So on the next thing down here on my list, so now that we've got the definition of what transparent is, let's run with the next bit. So we know that in most things in life that there is intellectual property. So intellectual property, and most people will do their darndest to protect that. And as builders, yes, builders do want to protect their intellectual property, because at the end of the day, if you go to a volume builder and you're wanting to basically get a set of plans, that's intellectual property. So we know that while you can see the plans, copyright becomes a big thing. So yeah, there's certain bits of that. But when it comes to the feeling of someone being transparent, intellectual property, yes, it does come into it, but at the end of the day, everybody's going to be doing the same thing. So why get so really bent up out of shape about it? Because the procedures to build a house are all the same. But there's still people that want to get bent out of shape about it, which is fine to a certain degree. But some people take it to the extreme, and I've seen that sort of thing come into it. So definitely got to be very careful when it comes to that. So yes, will some people be non-transparent when it comes to their intellectual property? Yes, definitely. So that's one aspect of it. And to me, it probably should be the smallest aspect of it. So everyone's just got to be really careful when it comes to that. So I'm sure everyone feels like when they're dealing, if it wasn't in a crease on the page, that'd be a little bit handy to actually read that. Let's get into it. So I'm sure everyone feels like when they're dealing with a business, not just a builder, so we won't go into just builders, that they question if they are being upfront and transparent. So being upfront and transparent. is, with any business, it is going to be that aspect of when you walk in the door somewhere, within the first couple of minutes, you'll get a gut feeling on whether someone's going to be straight up with you and hand over the information. So you go into, let's just say, buying a car. Are you going to have them, well, is there an expectation, I should say, that every single price is going to be noted down, right down to the washers and that sort of thing that might go into a car? Is that going to be in there? So I guess it comes down, when it comes to this, is what's people's expectations? Do expectations need to be tempered by people? And I guess one of the things, and I guess this comes back to a little bit of intellectual property for myself and my own business, is we have something called, and I guess you could say it's a success insurance policy. And this means that we discuss all the information that's passed across, and one of the things is going to be, are you going to be expecting a full breakdown on everything? And obviously for the right price, then yes, full breakdowns can be supplied. But then what are you actually going to be doing with that sort of thing? So there is going to be a level of builders saying, why do you need that level of breakdown, and what are you going to use it for? So that's really what it comes down to. And I have to admit, the times that I have been asked for full breakdowns on everything, it always has come down to somebody not going down to the nuts and bolts of it, but going into it to find out, okay, if I compare this to somebody else, and generally it is more of a wholesale price, and this is where it starts to get complicated, people are going to, say, a friend of theirs and going, oh, can you do this cheaper than what my builder's quoted this? And more than likely they can, but are they comparing apples with apples? So this is where it really comes down to it. If you want the breakdown, yes, you can have it, but then you're going to need to be comparing everything, and whoever else is going to be doing some of the work, they need to be able to provide that information, and to the full extent that we do. So yes, transparency when it comes to getting all the right information, biting through the intellectual property stuff. Yes, there is a certain aspect that, look, people are going to feel like they're not getting all the relevant information or anything like that. But I'll admit this. When it comes to certain people in the work that they do, I know that there's people out there that only provide one page of information for a price, or a single line item for a price on a property or on a project. And when that sort of thing's happening, like, I can understand why people are a little bit concerned that they're not getting all the right information, and the builder's not being transparent with them. And that's totally understandable. When you're out buying a car or anything like that, it's a big purchase, it's a big expenditure, and sometimes you'd like to see where extra expenses might be, and that's why you do have things like options lists. And that does give people a little bit of transparency to say, okay, well, if I want this extra thing on my car, it's going to cost this much. When it comes to things on your house, should we expect the same? Definitely, because we should be able to give you a price, and we should be able to turn around and say to you, this is how much extra it's going to cost, and these are the reasons why. And I know that with my business, we definitely have these conversations all the time about that level of communication and the level of transparency about, okay, this is what you're asking for. These could be the consequences, these could be the drawbacks, these could be the advantages, and these could be the things that make it work, these could be the things that not make it work. So a lot of the time it does go back to the communication aspect. So we might touch on that, we might not at the moment. We'll see how we go. But yes, do you feel like people are being upfront with you? I know from many conversations, the transparency issue is a huge thing, and being upfront right from the get-go, if you're not feeling it, it's going to make it very difficult. All right, is this one of the reasons why there is a belief that builders are dishonest? So going back to some of the stuff I've talked about over the last little while, transparency. Is some of that a dishonesty sort of aspect? I completely forgot that I asked myself that question, and yes. Can it be an aspect that in the broader community could make everyone believe that builders are dishonest? I reckon that it is a yes. If there is a level of non-transparency, then what's going to be happening? People aren't going to be they're not going to be giving people good reviews. And I think that that's been broadcast on everything right from the get-go. But does it always fall into dishonesty? No, I don't think that it does. Like I've said before, when it comes to dishonesty with builders, they don't know what they don't know, so they don't know that they're doing anything wrong. And sometimes it's up to us as other professionals in the industry to be informing them when they're doing something wrong, because they might have had a client that's then shipped over to another builder, and well, that builder, I guess you could say, in a lot of ways, it would be good to hear other builders be able to go out and say to another builder, hey man, this is what happened. And here's a bit of feedback for you. I think you need to do something about it. It's sort of like, what is it? Continual professional development. And I think that to a certain degree, well, I know in Victoria it's not something that's spoken about a lot, certainly not enforced like other states. But yes, it'd be great if that sort of thing did happen, because it would only benefit everybody that's out there building. So yes, is it communication? Is it timely responses? Is it professionalism? Whew. Where do we go with that? So professionalism. Do people think that builders are professional? Do they think that just the smaller guys are unprofessional because they might not have systems and procedures in place? To a certain degree. Does that affect the level of communication? Does it affect the transparency that can happen as well? Yeah, because let's face it, smaller places, they generally will be a lot more forthright and a lot more upfront, but they may not have the procedures in place to be able to get the information to you as quickly as whatever other people that have already worked through the problem and gotten the systems to be able to do it. So yeah, it is definitely something that's out there. Professionalism. It's not always there. The procedures aren't there for everybody. So yes. All right. Now the last thing that I wanted to discuss is when presenting quotes through to invoices and claims for payments, is it the lack of clear information on the documentation or the procedures? Wow. If you have built before, if you are looking to build at the moment, then there is a certain aspect that does come into it with the lack of information, the lack of clear information, and there's a lot of people that are culprits for this, and it does create a lot of issues. And it is the lack of, like I said before, you see people with one single line item, that's the price, that's your house, as per the plans that are supplied or drawn up. Now, this is where the professionalism comes into it, this is where the lack of communication comes into it, and yes, the transparency side of it does pose a problem here. It is a big problem, because if somebody doesn't provide you with clear information that can make you ensure that what you're paying for is what's being quoted for, it can definitely sour relationships, and that to me is a severe red flag. So single line items on any quote, any invoice, anything like that, without detailed information beside it should be like, everyone run fuck away from that. Because yeah, it's just going to lead to issues. Now, they don't have to break everything down to the nuts and bolts, because look, does everybody that's building a house know how many nuts and bolts might go into the steel columns that are going to be installed if it needs steel in the house? Not necessarily. And we're talking cents in the dollar sort of thing. But if somebody is building a 3-story house and they need to know that the steel that's been allowed for in the house has been allowed for by someone having shop drawings, and those shop drawings then going into the quote, or off to someone to quote up and making sure that that price is going to be accurate. Yeah, I think that needs to happen. So definitely make sure that the documentation is going to be right, and it'll also help you to be able to get all of that sorted out so you don't have a problem in the future. But yeah, if you don't have all that documentation done, and it'll at least all noted out for you, it may cause issues. Now, something I touched on just before, and this is the aspect of for a price, the information's available. There's a lot of work that goes into producing the information. So you would obviously already know that when you go to draftsmen, architects, anything like that, they've got charges for all of that. And reputable builders, and I'll stand behind this, if they're doing a quote for free, if they're doing work for free, can almost guarantee that there's going to be things missed. And they're the guys that always provide single line quotes or single pages for a quote for a whole house build. And yeah, people can jump up and down at me about that all you like. I'm going to stand behind it, because it's not appropriate to be quoting up a whole house on a single page and providing that to a client. That's not professional, guys. So yeah, I'll stand behind that. But yeah, that's the thing, transparency, guys. So we've been going through that, and like what's happened with like what I've discussed with dishonesty, I believe that it is a larger issue, transparency. It's going to take a lot of different key elements for people to actually understand when builders are being transparent. But at the same time, it is going to go both ways. Are owners being transparent with the builders? Because I see it all the time. It's not just a one-sided affair where a lot of people will say, oh, well, we're going to them, they're providing a service, they need to be transparent. Okay, that's great. How transparent are you with them to begin with? And one of the things that we always find as builders is the most contentious topic, which is the budgets. And if you're not transparent with your budget, with a builder that you find you can work with, what can happen from there? What can happen from there? Have a think about that. I'll let you ponder on that, and we may discover something else in another episode to go with that. But I hope this has been helpful, informative, and if you've got any questions, definitely send them to me. You can reach me on any of the platforms. I think my email address is down in the bottom in the description of the episode. Wherever it may be, comment, like, share, subscribe, follow, all those fun things, and you'll be able to get in contact with me. And hopefully the audio has worked out to be really well, and it's a bit windy out here at the moment, so hopefully it's been okay. But thank you for listening. This is Hugh at the Builder's Office, and I hope you guys have a great time until I see you next time. Thank you very much, guys. See you later.